like we need like intro music, like ding 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 ding.
I don't think you can do
Hello,
that.
reporting live here from the Essex Bass home team of Coldwell Banker Residential Brokerage.
Yeah, I don't think
reporting
you can actually...
here is Anisha Berkeley and Melissa Evans and
We're
your
signing
host Alicia Essig.
Yeah, I actually don't think you can.
I can't do that.
I don't think you can do that on Facebook.
No, that would
Well,
be
you'd
fun
have to
though.
like get one of us to cue up the music like on our phone.
Oh,
Just,
that
like,
would be good.
Hold the phone over your head and go.
Maybe next
Okay,
year.
focus.
Anyway.
Anyway.
Pew, 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 pew.
Anyway, hopefully if you are hanging out with us today, you saw my post earlier that we're going to talk about the market update. You know, a lot of realtors have a lot of opinions about what the market looks like. And I think
we do too.
What's interesting is when you dive deep into the numbers, but then you also couple that with some, what I had said in my post, some psychology, some history, and money statistics. There's a bigger, different story that is there to be told. And the overarching thing is that it doesn't matter. I mean, we're going to throw out some statistics today. We're going to talk about different neighborhoods and areas, but ultimately it's cliche, and I talk about my cliche sayings, but real estate's local, and it's hyper local, and it's even more important right now in a market that I'm going to throw a little shade, but in a market that is not peaking, in a market that is what I would call probably more stable and neutral. It's not a seller's market, it's not a buyer's market, but it is in certain areas and certain price ranges, and I think that's what's super important to understand. So,
and under certain conditions.
yeah, so if you are watching, oh, thank you very much. If you are watching and you have any questions, we'd love to answer them. Please feel free to log in and type in your questions below. And we'd love for you to share this video as well. And I think another key piece that we're going to also talk about is we actually need more homes to sell. So if you have had any thoughts of moving, we would love to talk to you. Or if you have a rental property you'd like to unload, please just give us a call. We'd love to talk to you. Yep. So ladies, I kind of talked about it. It's very hyper-local. It's overall, I think it's a general sort of neutral market. I know that our team alone right now has 12 pending sales, which means, I mean, that's good. That's good in a month. They pretty much all went under contract in the last 4 or 5 weeks. So that's it's happening. There's buyers and there's sellers. There's both. But in the general metro area, and I'm gonna hold up my computer. So I want you guys to look at that chart, right? So you see the dip down, right? So that was in January and February, and this is sales. And what happens is back in the fall, in October or so, we had listings that were on the market that really didn't sell. They were just kind of sitting there, and we were hosting open houses, and we were like, where are the people? And the people, I don't know what happened, but for some reason, the home buyers seemed to take a break, and they weren't showing up at open houses. But I think that they took a break because they then hit it very hard in January, and we had 2%, 3% increases in closings in March and April, which say that, a lot of, and I mentioned this in one of our EB Lives in January or February, that a lot of that lagging inventory, the home sellers who didn't give up, that stayed on the market, they all sold, every single one of them. And so right now, I think that you have to remember 2 things. There's, and actually, I'm sorry, 3 things. I mentioned that in my overview. There's history, there's buyer psychology, and then there's money. So the real estate sales cycle, so to speak, is about 90 to 120 days. It's really longer because home buyers nowadays, because of the availability of real estate information, they're really starting like 24 months in advance. So there are a ton of buyers out there that they're looking, they're going to open houses, but they really take their time and care because they have, and this is the history part, they have watched the last 10 years of our real estate market, and they're like, okay, they don't want to make a mistake. They're very afraid of making a wrong financial mistake. They're also, a lot of the first-time home buyers, which is the start of the domino, they are saddled with debt and they don't have a lot of cash, so they may want to buy a home. They have, so there's just a lot of history. And then the people, we're in 2019, if you think about that big market crash we had 13 years ago, a lot of homeowners are just now recovering enough equity to be able to sell that first home that they purchased and move up, which means that what they're not interested in doing is buying something that they have to do more work to. And I'm going to get into that later, but we've got Melissa over here going to talk about the city, and I've got Anisha over here that's going to talk about the county. Yeah. And why don't you start in the city and tell us what's happening?
So, Baltimore City has had an interesting couple of years in our real estate market. We are definitely still seeing the trend that was emerging in the last year or so of these middle-priced areas gaining ground, middle-priced neighborhoods. So the average sales price...
Can you define what a middle price is?
So the average sales price in Baltimore City has usually hovered around like $195, $200, $205. So neighborhoods where the average sales price is $200 and up are a little more neutral than neighborhoods that are in that like $100, $150 range. So when you break it down by zip code, you start to see some interesting things. So the first thing is like the high level of like the overall Baltimore City market. The sold dollar volume and the average sales price are both down around just a little under 2%. But the median sales price is up about 8%. So we're looking at like in April 2018, our average sales price was $180. In April 2019, it was $177. So it's a pretty small difference. In terms of days on market in the city overall, the average days on market is holding really steady year over year. It went from 79 in April 2018 to 78 in April 2019. Essentially, not a difference.
And really, it's also important to understand that is also indicative of a bit of a neutral market. I think that we spent many years with homes selling in under 30, 40 days. And that's not normal.
No.
Like, that's definitely not normal. When a home sells in the first day, week, month, that is indicative of a seller's market, and that's not normal. A normal market is 60 to 90 days on the market. Greater than 90 days, now you're looking at more of a buyer's market. So even in the city, where, you could look at some other statistics and say, oh, the city's in a buyer's market, 78 days on average is not indicative of a buyer's market at all.
No, it's definitely not. And when you actually take those numbers and you start to break it down by zip code, so some of the more expensive zip codes in the city are the 21230, 21224, and 21210. So 21230 encompasses the peninsula, it's Federal Hill, Locust Point, Riverside. 21224 obviously is Canton, the waterfront, and Patterson Park. And then 21210 is obviously Roland Park. It's a higher average sales price. When you look at those by zip code in 21224, the days on market have gone up, so things are taking longer to sell. But on the other hand, the average sales price is actually up. The average sales price was up almost 13%, and the median sales price was up almost 15%, April year over year from last year. Kind of the opposite in 21230, the days on market have improved a little bit. Things are selling a little quicker, but the sales are down on average about 15%. And then in 21210, the sales price, the volume, and then the average sales price is down and the days on market are up, so things are selling for less in longer time. That's kind of the overview of those three areas. But on the other hand, meanwhile, in 21211, which is Remington and Hamden, you have units and volume are up slightly and the days on market is down, so properties are selling faster. for slightly more money, and slightly more properties are selling. 21218, which is Charles Village, Edna Gardens Lakeside, Able, Barkley, Old Goucher. It is up 10%. The average and both the average and the median sales price are up about 10%. 21215 in the Northwest is having some more steady gains, and then 21209, the volume is up, and then the days on market are down. So again, selling for higher for less money. So when you take like all of Baltimore City's statistics together, you kind of see this like, oh, it looks like it's really steady, it's not moving, it's really neutral. You have to dig down into the data neighborhood by neighborhood to see what's really happening. And again, like that trend is continuing. These neighborhoods that are, 150 and below, like they're seeing these steady gains. Neighborhoods that are 250 and up are really more neutral, really like steady, steady and maybe a little down, but like, nothing necessarily has nothing necessarily to alarm us, and nothing necessarily that's peaked. Particularly I think in 21224 and 21230, when you look at the data from the last 3 years, you can see that like pricing and days on market were kind of at their peak in, I think, like late 2016, early 2017 in terms of those numbers. And so what, from my point of view, you're seeing is just a natural correction in the market in those areas. The market wasn't going to bear in the long term.
Well, do
those
you
prices.
think this is a very specific question, kind of like something I want to talk about on the other end? But do you think that the CHAP credit?
Yeah.
Talk about the CHAP credit and how you think it. And I know I'm sort of putting you on the spot.
No, it's fine. So
how it's affecting the sales, because I have a different issue in a different market.
Yeah, so the CHAP tax credit is
what is it for our viewers?
Yeah, it's the property tax credit that freezes taxes for 10 years at a pre-construction value, so long as certain architectural guidelines are followed and certain historic elements of the property are preserved. It doesn't apply in all areas, so there are actually a lot of areas where maybe 5 years ago, like in Federal Hill, a lot of properties were being redeveloped that had the CHAP. What I'm actually seeing, just anecdotally, more of now is resales of houses that have 4, 5, 6 years left on the CHAP tax credit. So these are renovations that were happening like in 2013, 2014, 2015, when I think that was a little bit at its peak in the downtown market. Obviously, you're still seeing CHAP renovations elsewhere in the city.
Well, what I mean
what are you
is,
trying to-
I guess my question is, the CHAPs that are almost running out don't compete with the new CHAPs. So the renovations, which kind of feeds into what I was talking about. So basically, if you either bought a home and you only have like 2 years left on your CHAP, and you're trying to sell it now, your competition, who's got a brand new 10-year CHAP credit, is more attractive.
Yeah.
Let me explain that a little deeper.
Yeah.
If you are a homeowner, you got a chapter credit for renovations, buying a renovated home, whatever. That credit is transferable to the buyer, so they're getting a major discount on their property taxes.
Correct.
If you are not clear, property taxes in the city are a little higher. So it could be a $5,000 discount, it could be a $10,000 discount, and the higher the price of the house goes, of course, the higher the discount goes.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So what she's saying is, when you're competing again, you're a house that's $250, $350, but your neighbor's $250 or $350, but their taxes are $10,000 cheaper.
Yeah.
Which house does the buyer go for?
And historically, I think investors have sort of had this number in their head of like $30,000 to $40,000 in terms of like, if you have a full 10-year CHAP tax credit, it adds $30,000 to $40,000 to the value of your house.
Oh,
and definitely
really?
Well,
that's how they're assessing.
That's how they're assessing it in
their mind.
That's very interesting.
And I know, like in Federal Hill, like I know that the investors in Federal Hill who are working and doing CHAP tax credits, they have a number in their mind for a list price, and it starts with a 4. And whether or not that is actually still attainable in Federal Hill and Riverside and Locust Point is iffy these days.
Interesting.
Anyway.
So, briefly, I'm going to go over the Baltimore County Towson market. Overall, everything is like she said. It's pretty specific. I did 21286 and 21204. 86 has had a lot of recent increase in listings, pendings, and closed sales. 04 is kind of still in the steady market. The problem is there is not enough inventory. If you are thinking of selling, know someone thinking of selling, it's happening. 30 days on market has been the average for a lot of them, but the other ones year to date have gone down 22% from last year. So the houses that were available, there were more available, so the numbers were turning over a little faster, but they were taking longer. This year, because there's so many houses, because the housing market lacks so many houses, there's not enough available, so they're selling 22% faster than last year this time. Numbers are still close, 1% here, 1.68% down in one place, up 7.82%. So pretty close in numbers depending on the price point. When we're looking at the median sold prices of $250, it's almost the same. It's less than a percentage difference. So the market is pretty steady. It is not a place to be afraid of, and it's actually a good thing in my opinion. When things move too far too fast, that's how things implode. Exactly. So you need steady, consistent. Exactly. We don't want to have 2007, 8, and 9 repeat. It was not fun.
We don't like that again.
We like neutral. We like steady. Let's keep it that way.
So the other thing I think we're going to touch briefly is when you do put your house on the market, condition matters. You still have to sell in a good condition to meet these numbers. So the better the condition, of course, the further, down your days on market go, the better your price will be. But
I mean, and that's the buyer psychology. We work with buyers and sellers, and I can't stress enough that when buyers are looking, I think a while back I was in leadership with somebody who did a lot of statistical discussion about how the distressed sales affected home sales. I'd love to, and I don't know how to do this, but I'd love to see how the flipped sales, the renovated homes, are affecting the neutral market. Because the fact of the matter is, if I show a buyer, who was that?
I don't know.
Hi, Christina. We'll sell your house for you.
Oh, that's Chrissy. Hey, Chrissy, what's up? Don't worry. Your value of your house is doing just fine.
We're good. She's got you. She's got you covered. That what we're looking at is if we have a, 4 or 5 or 10 houses to look at, 9 times out of 10, the buyer will pay a premium for a premium product. Exactly. So, understanding, and we talked about, I think a few
weeks ago,
EVs back,
couple market updates ago,
about things to do to your home to get them sold quickly. I mean, this is where our expertise is really important, because we also know tricks and ways around the homes. But still, at the end of the day, if it is a flipped home that's been gutted and has all the things that they're seeing on TV, the buyers are buying that.
And if you still have the original wallpaper from when you bought it or put it in, and the original curtains and the old lighting fixtures, you have to update it. You don't have to renovate the house, but I'm putting a house on the market. I'm meeting with them today. We're literally meeting with a contractor today because she has old wallpaper. She has borders around the kitchen. We have to make it neutral for the new people coming in.
Here's another chart. So I'm going to show this to you guys real quick. I'm going to let you look at that. So I want you to, what this chart is called market activity. And if you notice, all the bars on the left of the chart are trending downward, and the bars on the right of the chart are trending upward. I'll put a link to this in the comments. But what this actually means is, again, if I go back to sort of disputing what a fellow agent said on her market report, literally on all home types for January of 2019, it was an increase of 26% from December. So again, we talked about this weird, like quiet zone that happened in October and November.
There's always an ebb and a flow.
And it
Oh,
happens.
absolutely.
But
There's a season.
But the thing is it has rebounded in a way that's even better than it was just a year ago. And that's because I really do believe, first off, let's just recap. We know, we're trying to not go 25 minutes long, but I think so. We will wrap it up in a second. But actually, this is a great way to wrap it up. Feds have locked interest rates low, right? There is grant money available. There is
and new grant money
closing
coming out.
costs,
There's
new
new
grant
grant money coming out. Stay tuned.
there are homes to purchase because, as we talked about, it is hyper local. There are homes to purchase, particularly if you are willing to do a little paint, spit, and polish to a home. You can have a fabulous home at a great price.
Yeah.
I highly encourage home buyers right now to look at. All I can think of is the Ugly Betty. I'm so sorry. I don't mean that.
No.
I don't mean
Look
that.
at the standard.
Look at a house and look at its potential.
Right.
And let us help you conceptualize the potential in a property and not get wooed by the shiny penny, because you're going to pay a premium for that house anyway, and you're going to have to fight for it.
I was just about to say the competition.
You're going to have to fight for it, and you're going to have to pay a
The same
premium.
contractors that we use to get a house market ready are the same ones that can help you make it you ready.
Absolutely.
So don't be afraid.
I was just saying this to somebody last night. Look at the before in Chip and Joanna, and not the after.
Exactly. That's a great way to
Yeah.
put it. So listen, hyperlocal. The market is not peaking, in my opinion. To be honest with you, if it peaked, it peaked a couple of years ago. I think that we are in a healthy, neutral market. People have jobs, and that's the other thing you have to look at. People have jobs. The economy is stable. They have incomes. People are traveling. They're spending money. Things are good.
The political situation is getting a little more stable locally.
It's well, that's a whole
Well,
other
so-
life.
Dive
Anyway.
into that.
Here's the thing I would say. If you are concerned, even if you're not selling, but you're wondering what's happening with your market, it's a free phone call. It's a free email. It's a free
Absolutely.
text.
And it does not mean that we are going to be like, oh, you should sell or buy it right now. Just call us and ask.
We go with what you want to do.
Yeah.
So that's the news for now.
We are your sources of information, and we're always here. So
Thank you. Have a great week, you guys. Oh, next week we're going to have, we're going to talk well and septics.
yep, fun stuff.
And next week, if you are a client, come to our appreciation party. And if you
Oh,
didn't get
that's
your
great.
If you
invite,
haven't gotten your invite to our garden party, hit us up and let us know.
yes, because we would love to have you.
We absolutely
See you
would.
later.
Bye.